My name is Charles Lane, and today I wanted to bring you the first Bible that I had got when we were trying to decide on a Bible for me to get when we had actually came back to the Word and when we started our core classes. So we went a few places, looked, tried to find something that was more kind of readable and had these nice thumb indexes on there that I like. So this, we ended up picking up a nice Tyndale NLT cross design New Living Translation. Um, I'll go over translations pretty soon in one of my other videos, but this was suggested because this is one of the more readable versions because this is more of a thought for thought than a word for word translation. So they try to match all the thoughts so that they come out more understandable. The New Living Translation is apparently really good to read out loud. So that's one of the reasons why they chose those type of translations. Um, so in one moment, I'll go to an overhead shot and we'll get more into this book. So thank you guys, and I hope you enjoy. Okay, so that we are back to the table, we can get a closer look at this. Now, I really like this when we picked it up. It has that, one of the first selling points is this nice little Celtic cross design on here. So this is a by Tyndale. It's a New Living Translation. Has a nice gold gilding all the way around. Has a little bit of wear because it's been in my book bag a few times. The thumb index. It's really helpful if you're new to the Bible, so that way you can find the references to each of the different books a lot easier. We'll go in here and open this up. This is a 2000 and it looks like 2022 printing. It's paste down liner, sewn edging all the way around, and go through the first paste down page. I like that quote. Your word is a lamp to guide my feet and a light for my path. There is no presentation page in this. You go straight into the actual Bible. Now, this is part of their Philomena app. So you'd use this to register your book with it. I'll go into the app at another time when we start going over the different study Bibles and how to use them. This would actually count as a full study Bible, even though it's just a nice compact reference Bible. Going to our first few pages, it has full contents, has a listing of the Old Testament and New Testament, with a little note about what each of the text symbols mean. The instructions for the Filament app, how to actually get it and start using it with your Bible. I tend to recommend going and reading the notes in the beginning, at least the first time, so you can get more information on their translation philosophy. Like I noted first when I first started talking about this, the New Living Translation is what they consider to be a thought for thought. So they're trying to get the meaning and the full thought across about what each of the sections are and each of the verses are. They try to be as literal as they can and still make it much more readable. They have the textual footnotes in here of what each of the text footnotes have. So they actually have footnotes and cross references. Go straight into Genesis, and you'll notice on the bottom of these pages, they have the translation notes. You won't see a lot of cross references in this book itself because most of the cross references will be in the app itself. So that actually will let you have much more room for the text in the page. This is supposed to be a lay flat version, so when you even hit you can't quite get it to lay flat in Genesis. You kind of have to go a few more pages in to maybe Exodus and Numbers, and it starts laying flat on its own. I really like this. It's a dual column, really large text font point. So I think it says it was a 10-point font. Notes here say it is supposed to be, I just passed it. Lay flat design. So yeah, a 10-point font on it. So this is fairly large for a Bible this size. Um, as we flip through a few more here. Normally comes with one ribbon, the brown ribbon. I've been liking to add more ribbons to my Bibles. My study plans usually have at least 2 sections in them, so it makes it easier for you to actually figure out where you're at and not have to bounce back and forth. So we'll go through a few more pages in here. It's really readable. You can kind of see that there is some of the ghosting in the background of these images. Um, it's really readable. For the most part, it is line matched, so it makes it much easier to read against that ghosting. I lucked out, and in regular lighting, it is much more readable than it might look like here. This has been my go-to reader when I had first started my Bible in a year plan that I've been doing. I already got almost 100 days into this plan, and this has been the book I've read for the most of it. So I really like some of these translation notes, how they're talking about the different ways it could be translated. It's like some Bibles translate it slightly differently. Going to Judges, Kings. Let's try to work my way forward here to find a poetic passage. Nehemiah, about to get into Psalms after Job. So you can see the ghosting a little bit more in the poetic passages because there isn't as much text, but it's center line, verse by verse for the poetic passages. So that way it makes it easier when you're referring back to them. Let's go a little bit further here. Jump into Proverbs. Still the same. It's really readable, even though there's that little bit of ghosting. Once you get used to it, you almost don't see it anymore. Keep going through Proverbs, Isaiah, and you'll find when we get past the Old Testament, which the second set of thumb lines here should be getting me into New Testament fairly quickly. Ezekiel, Jonah. All right, so we're about to go into something else that I'll notice it here in a little bit. Zechariah. All right, so we're getting into New Testament. I kind of like the way that they laid this out. They didn't have it as one big paragraph for the ancestry tree, so it makes it a little bit easier to go through and read that. So you're able to follow the entire line that denotes Jesus's bloodline all the way back up to David. And this is a red letter text. And the red letter actually is pretty deep red. Very, very readable. Some of them it's kind of faint, but there are some differences in the red here and there. That could just be printing. But for the most part, it's really solid, really good. As I keep going through Matthew, John, Luke. So we get to John. Something I've noticed that I really like too, a lot of the Bibles have been doing this recently. They're taking all of the chapters and they start on a brand new page. So it makes it easier when you're going through, so that way you're not halfway through a page and then starts the next chapter. Makes it much easier to see. We'll keep going through, and it's really noticeable when you get back toward the back after Acts. Oh, I was using this as a test Bible for some of the highlighting because I will start highlighting soon. That's going to be another thing that I want to start showing people, are tools for your highlighting to make it easier, and pages will stand out and verses will stand out better for you. So one of my favorite passages is where I actually started the initial one, which is 1 Corinthians 13, verse 4 through 7. Love is patient, love is kind. It is not jealous or boastful or proud or rude. It does not demand its own way. It is not irritable. It keeps no record of being wronged. It does not rejoice in injustice, but rejoices whenever the truth wins out. Love never gives up, never loses faith, is always hopeful, and endures for every circumstance. I use two different kind of highlighters here to kind of show the difference on the bleed through. Since this is very thin paper, um, you kind of want to be really careful with what type of highlighter you use or pen you want to use. So that very first line was done with a regular highlighter, and you can kind of see here that it bleeds through a little bit, you know. But the rest of it was done with these Mr. Pen gel highlighters. It leaves a little bit of you can kind of feel the highlighter there, but it doesn't cause the pages to stick together, and it's pretty nice, and it's still pretty vibrant. And so I will probably be using those more in the future. Come back through Corinthians, the 2 Corinthians. These have a lot of notes in the bottom of there. Galatians, Ephesians, Timothy. Let me see. Hebrews. You'll notice it a lot when you get to that nice breakup. You get, John 1, John 2, 1 John, 2 John. Yeah, 2 John. Clean. That's a very short passage. You go into Revelations, and Revelations in this Bible ends on page 1874. So you can kind of tell it's a nice thick Bible because of how large the text is, and it's very readable. I mean, even with my glasses on, I can mostly read it. I'm nearsighted, so I tend to read without glasses. It has a really nice verse finder at the end, kind of a small little concordance, but the app actually has a lot more information than you could possibly fit in here. So it has different touch points that it goes through. Nice little mini concordance to give you references to certain types of scripture that you're looking for. At the back of the page, and the back of the book, they have a visual overview of the Bible. I really like some of these maps that they have as you go through. This one is the world of the patriarchs. The explanation of the different plagues of Egypt. So how each one of the plagues and what Egyptian deity that specific plague was going toward. So it would kind of help you to understand a little bit better the significance of each of these. The Exodus from Egypt, the path that they had taken, Israel's annual calendar. So a list of the calendar, the significant things that happen in that part of the year. And also has markings for all the different festivals. So what time of year those festivals had taken place. That's a nice little reference for somebody, especially that's newer to the Bible. The overview of the land that was given to each of the 12 tribes of Israel. Kingdom of Israel. And this, I really liked this when I first saw it. So this is a visual explanation of the book of Psalms. So each one of these dots is basically how many words that are in the psalm, or how many verses that are in the psalm actually. I was wrong. It was verses. So you got all the way from one verse near one of the smallest verses is actually, it looks like 133 is one of the smallest numbers, but it actually says 117 is the shortest with only 2 verses. And then Psalm 119 is 176 verses. So this gives you a representation of how large they are. And I like that they break out the meanings, or what the representations for each of them are, as far as how they're associated, whether it's praise, thanksgiving, God is King, the messianic ones, laments, vindication. It's a really good little visual overview. And then there's this one that I like is another one. It's a visual representation of the prophets. So each of these lines here are their ministry and how long they were. My light just changed. And the other side is how tall they are, is how many words in the book, and how wide it is how many years their ministry had lasted. So that is a nice little thing here. I don't know why my light is acting up here. See if I can fix that. There we go. So, a nice little explanation of the ministry of Jesus, uh, the different points, and what was actually happening during those points. So, I really enjoy the different maps and the different um, little tools they have in here to kind of give you an idea of, like, this one is which one of the apostles, where they reference back. So how many references to the Old Testament, New Testament are from Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John. I really like that. That came out really well. Journeys of the Christian leaders, Paul's missionary journeys on his missions, and an Old Testament and the new letters. So explanation of each of the letters, how they actually correspond back. I really like this. Then you have just one more page for the paste down. A nice sewn binding all the way around. And if you look closely, this is a Smith sewn, so it's not a glue bound. So this Bible should last quite a while with a decent amount of care. So I kind of lucked out when we got this, as being one of the first Bibles I have. It will probably last me quite a while, and especially when I have this nice little case that I bought for it. So that way when I put it in my bag, it'll last a little longer. So this nice little bag, you zip it up, protect it pretty well from water and rain. You have something in the back for notes. This is the little study guide we're doing for my men's group. So you can store like little notes, note cards, identification if you want it to be there. So that was my review and walkthrough of my nice New Living Translation. I will go through some more books as we go, and thank you for watching. I hope you like it. And if you like it, don't forget to subscribe, like it, and leave comments. It's always nice to hear comments, whether you liked it, whether you have this Bible, and any other Bibles or tools that you might suggest for somebody else to go into to help them out. So thank you very much. You guys have a good evening, and we'll see you.